warm and gentle welcome to you. It is a kindness that you have chosen to spend your time with us here, and we are so very glad for your company. There is a great deal of hurry in the wider world, a sense of rushing and of things needing to be done, but you will find none of that in this quiet corner. This story has been crafted with a simple hope that it might serve as a soft place for your mind to rest, a gentle stream to carry you softly towards the peaceful shores of sleep. And so, we invite you to find a comfortable position, to feel the gentle weight of your own stillness, and to simply listen. Allow the quiet unfolding of this tale to be a comforting presence beside you in the dark. And if, as our story settles around you, you find a measure of the peace you seek, we would be so grateful if you would like this story and subscribe to our channel, for it lets us know we have brought a little quiet comfort into the world. Chapter 1. The Threshold of Quiet. There are, you see, places in the world that lie just outside the hurried pathways of ordinary days. They do not announce themselves with grand arches or gilded signs, for they have no need of such things. Their entrances are often quiet and unassuming, easily missed by those who are not, perhaps, looking for a particular kind of stillness. The threshold to the Ghyll of Murmuring Bells was just such a place. A simple arch of gray-green stones, bound together by time, and a thick, soft weaving of ancient ivy, whose leaves seemed to drink the very sound from the air. It stood at the end of a little trodden path, a silent invitation to a world apart. Vian stood before it for a long moment, his hand resting on the cool, steadfast stone. The air on this side of the arch felt busy, carrying with it the distant hum of comings and goings, the faint scent of wood smoke from chimneys too far to see, and a restless little breeze that seemed to be searching for something it could not find. But through the archway the air appeared different. It looked softer, somehow, heavier and more content, holding the light in a way that reminded him of honey, thick and golden and slow. He felt a gentle pull, not of curiosity, but of a quiet, soul-deep longing for rest. Taking a soft, steadying breath, he stepped through. The change was immediate and profound. It was not silence, for silence can be empty, even loud in its own way. This was a deep and resonant quiet, a presence rather than an absence. The chattering breeze fell away completely, and the sounds of the outside world were not so much blocked as gently absorbed, soaked up by the moss and the ancient stones as if they were nothing more than a soft spring rain. In their place, something else rose to meet him, a low, harmonious hum. A sound so deep it was felt in the soles of his feet and the hollow of his chest before it was ever truly heard by his ears. He began to walk along a path made of smooth, dark flagstones, each one worn by the gentle passing of untold peaceful years. They felt cool and solid beneath his soft-soled shoes, a comforting and steady guide into the Ghyll's embrace. Above him, the branches of enormous broad-leaf trees formed a living canopy, a high vaulted ceiling that filtered the afternoon sun. The light no longer fell in harsh, bright shafts, but descended in hazy, diffuse columns, each one filled with a million tiny motes of dust and pollen, dancing a slow and mesmerizing ballet in the still, warm air. The air itself was a wonder. It carried a scent that was at once clean and rich, a comforting blend of damp, fertile earth. the sweet perfume of some unseen night-blooming flower, and a faint, altogether surprising aroma of freshly baked bread. Fionn drew it in slowly, and it felt like the most nourishing thing he had ever known. It was the scent of a place that was cared for, a place of deep-rooted peace and simple, wholesome comforts. Each breath seemed to untangle some small, unnoticed knot within him, loosening a tension around his shoulders he hadn't even realized he was carrying. The hum grew a little stronger as he walked, resolving itself not into a single note, but a gentle chord of several low, harmonious tones. It was a sound like a great and gentle creature, breathing softly in its sleep, a constant and reassuring presence that seemed to say, "Rest now, all is well." It wrapped around him like the softest of blankets, a lullaby sung by the land itself. Fionn found his own footsteps slowing to match its languid rhythm, his gait becoming less a walk and more a slow, meandering drift. He looked at the plants that grew beside the path, at the soft, velvety moss that clung to the bark of the trees, a moss of such a deep and vibrant green it seemed to be lit from within. Everything here seemed content to simply be. Nothing strained towards the light or jostled its neighbor for space. The leaves of the ferns unfurled in slow, perfect spirals, and the small, star-like flowers that dotted the ground seemed to be gazing up at the canopy with a look of serene patience. It was in this way, without hurry and without a destination in mind, that Fionn moved deeper into the Ghyll. The path curved gently, hiding what lay ahead, but for the first time in a very long while, he felt no urge to see around the bend. It was enough to be right here, on this cool stone, in this soft light, wrapped in this warm, humming air. It was enough to be at the threshold of quiet, and to have found it, at last, to be a place of gentle welcome. Chapter 2. The Warden and the Warm Hearth. The flagstone path, after winding its way through the tranquil trees, eventually opened into a small, round clearing. Here the hum was a warm and constant presence, and in the center of this clearing sat a cottage so perfectly suited to its surroundings that it seemed to have grown there. It was a small, gentle dwelling with walls of smooth gray river stone and a low thatched roof upon which a thick springy carpet of that same luminous green moss grew, giving the entire structure a soft and living quality. A thin curl of pale gray smoke, smelling faintly of applewood, rose from a squat stone chimney and disappeared without a trace into the still air. From the rounded doorway, a figure emerged. He was not old, nor was he young, but possessed an air of timelessness, much like the Ghyll itself. This was Olin, the Warden. He moved with an unhurried grace that spoke of a life lived in harmony with the slow rhythms of the world. He wore simple clothes of soft, earth-toned fabric, and his face, kind and weathered like a smooth piece of driftwood, broke into a slow, gentle smile of welcome. He raised a hand not in a wave, but in a simple, open-palmed gesture of peace, and waited. Fionn felt no need for words, for none seemed necessary. Olin's welcome was as clear and as comforting as the hum of the Ghyll. He approached the cottage, and the Warden simply nodded and stepped aside, holding the wooden door open. The interior was a single, round room, surprisingly bright and suffused with a gentle, warm light. It was a place of profound and simple comfort. A small fire crackled happily in a stone hearth, its flames casting a soft dancing glow on the curved wooden walls, which were worn smooth and dark with age. Olin gestured to a low, comfortable-looking chair near the fire, its cushions covered in a soft, hand-woven wool. As Fionn sat, the Warden moved to a small kitchenette in the corner, where the source of the delicious, bready scent became clear. A row of small golden-brown loaves cooled on a wooden rack. Olin took down 2 simple, handleless ceramic mugs, their surfaces imbued with a faint swirling pattern like cream in tea, and ladled a steaming, fragrant liquid into them from a pot that sat warming by the edge of the hearth. He brought a mug to Fionn, his movements careful and deliberate. The warmth seeped through the ceramic into Fionn's hands before he even took a sip. He looked down into the mug. It was milk, spiced with a hint of cinnamon and nutmeg, and sweetened with just a touch of honey. He raised the mug and took a slow, careful taste. It was wonderfully, deeply comforting, a warmth that spread from his tongue down into his chest, chasing away the last vestiges of any chill he might have carried with him from the outside world. They sat together in a shared, companionable quiet, the only sounds being the soft crackle and pop of the fire, and the low, ever-present hum from the Ghyll outside. Fionn watched the flames of the fire as they writhed and twisted, little licks of orange and yellow dancing around the seasoned logs. The smoke rose, carrying with it the pleasant, slightly sweet scent of the burning applewood, which mingled beautifully with the aroma of the spiced milk and the subtle perfume of the bellflowers that drifted in through the open door. It was a tapestry of comforting scents woven together in the warm, still air. Fionn felt a profound sense of safety settle over him, a feeling of being truly sheltered. The smooth wooden walls seemed to hold the warmth of 1,000 gentle fires, and the soft, steady hum from outside was a constant, soothing presence at the edge of his hearing. The chair was soft and supportive, and he could feel the deep, steady heat from the hearth begin to seep into his very bones, loosening muscles he had held taut for so long. It was a place where one could simply be, without expectation or demand. Olin reached over and placed one of the small warm loaves of bread on a wooden plate alongside a little dish of soft sweet butter. He pushed it gently towards Fionn with another quiet smile. It was a simple offering, a sharing of simple sustenance, but it felt like the grandest of feasts. Fionn broke off a piece of the bread. Its crust was crisp, and its inside was wonderfully soft and light. The warmth of the fire, the comfort of the spiced milk, and the simple goodness of the bread created a sense of contentment, so pure and complete that it felt like a soft exhalation of the soul. Chapter 3. The Language of the Bell. After a time of quiet rest by the hearth, the sun had begun its slow descent through the canopy. Olin rose with his gentle, unhurried motion. He looked at Fionn, his expression a soft inquiry, and then gestured with a slight nod of his head towards the door and the deeper parts of the Ghyll that lay beyond. Fionn understood it as an invitation to see the heart of this tranquil place, and so he placed his empty mug on the smooth stone of the hearth and followed the Warden back out into the humming, golden-hued air. They walked away from the cottage, not on a path of stone now, but upon the soft, yielding carpet of the luminous moss itself. It felt cool and springy underfoot, like walking on a living, breathing cushion. Olin led him towards a part of the hollow where the ancient trees grew thicker, and their branches, heavy with age, drooped low, tangled with thick, twisting vines as old as the trees themselves. And it was from these vines that the murmuring bells grew, hanging in great, heavy clusters like wondrous, pearlescent fruit. They were larger up close than Fionn had imagined, each bell the size of a clasped hand, their surfaces smooth and shimmering with a soft milky light. They were not a pure white, but held within their pearlescence the gentlest hints of lavender and rose, shifting as the faint light caught them. It was from these flowers that the hum emanated, a sound now so rich and close that Fionn could feel it as a distinct, gentle vibration in the air around him. The flowers themselves seemed to pulse with the sound, their inner light waxing and waning in a slow, hypnotic rhythm. Olin paused and turned to Fionn, placing a single quiet finger to his lips, an invitation not for silence, but for a deeper kind of listening. He encouraged Fionn to close his eyes, and as Fionn did so, the world of sight fell away, and the world of sound blossomed. The hum was not one single note, but a whole choir of them. There were deep, resonant tones like the purr of a great, contented cat, which seemed to form a warm, steady foundation. Woven through these were clearer, more distinct notes, like a single drop of water falling into a perfectly still pool, each one hanging in the air for a moment before melting back into the whole. Olin gently guided Fionn's hand forward until his fingertips were just inches from the surface of one of the largest bells. He did not need to touch it. He could feel the vibrations emanating from it, a soft, physical pulse that traveled through the air and met his skin. It was a sensation of pure, untroubled calm, a gentle, rhythmic massage for the soul. He felt the resonance travel up his arm, not as a jarring shock, but as a wave of profound peace, and he could feel it loosening the quiet, persistent chatter of his own mind, smoothing out the rumpled edges of his thoughts until they lay flat and still. He opened his eyes and looked at the bells with a new sense of wonder. They were not merely making a sound, they were speaking a language. It was a language without words or grammar, a language of pure feeling, and its only meaning was peace. Fionn watched as a tiny iridescent beetle crawled slowly along the rim of a nearby bell, its movements unhurried, as if it too were caught in the tranquil spell of the place. The light from the bells cast a soft ethereal glow on its back, turning it into a tiny moving jewel. Olin moved quietly among the vines, his touch gentle and reverent as he inspected a leaf or straightened a drooping stem. He handled the plants with a deep and familiar affection, as one would care for a cherished old friend. He explained, in a voice that was little more than a murmur, that each bell had its own small voice, its own part in the greater chorus of calm. Some, he said, hummed the tune of deep, dreamless sleep, while others held the note of quiet, sun-drenched contentment. Fionn spent what felt like a long, beautiful time just standing there amongst the flowers, breathing in their faint, sweet scent and allowing their song to wash over him. He felt as though the hum was gently recalibrating him, tuning him to a more peaceful frequency, the constant, low-level static of worry that so often resides in the quiet corners of the mind was being smoothed away, replaced by the simple, beautiful resonance of the bells. He was not just hearing the peace of the Ghyll, he was feeling it, becoming part of it. Chapter 4. The Weaving of Light and Water. In the days that followed, Fionn found a gentle rhythm that was guided not by a clock, but by the slow shifting of light and the quiet needs of a body and mind at rest. He would wake in the small, comfortable bed Olin had prepared for him, not to an alarm, but to the soft, steady hum that seemed to gently nudge him from sleep. His mornings were spent in quiet, solitary observation, often down by the Ghyll's spring, which was the source of the soft, luminous moss and the wonderfully pure water for the hearthstone tea. The spring was not a rushing fountain, but a slow, gentle upwelling of water from deep within the earth. It pooled in a shallow, stone-lined basin before trickling away to nourish the roots of the ancient trees. The water was so pristine and clear that it acted as a perfect lens, magnifying the colors of the smooth, rounded pebbles that lined its bed. Stones of soft gray, gentle rose quartz, and a deep, mossy green. He would sit for ages, simply watching the way the water ever so slightly distorted the shapes of the stones, making them appear to breathe with a slow, steady pulse. Clinging to the damp stones at the water's edge was the luminous moss, the Ghyll's second, quieter wonder. During the day, it was a deep, velvety green, soaking in the hazy columns of sunlight that pierced the canopy. But as dusk began to settle, a quiet magic would happen. The moss would begin to emit a soft, ethereal glow, releasing the stored sunlight back into the world. It was a steady, silvery green luminescence, a light with no heat, no sharp edges, only a gentle, dreamlike radiance. Fionn found a particular kind of peace in watching this slow transition. As the golden light of day faded, the soft, cool light of the moss would rise to meet it. It was a silent, beautiful conversation between two kinds of light. He would often stay by the spring long into the evening, watching the way this gentle, magical glow wove together with the soft, pulsing light from the distant murmuring bells. Together they created a shifting, intricate tapestry of light and shadow, casting slow dancing patterns on the still surface of the pool and the rough bark of the trees. It was a silent ballet, a visual lullaby. There was no need for entertainment here, for the world itself was endlessly fascinating in its gentle unfolding. Fionn would observe the slow, deliberate journey of a snail across a broadleaf, its path marked by a shimmering trail. He would watch as a single leaf, its duty done, would detach from a high branch and begin its long, slow, spiraling descent, turning over and over in the still air before coming to rest with a soft sigh on the mossy ground. Each tiny event was a perfect story in itself, a lesson in patience and acceptance. One afternoon, a soft rain began to fall. It was not a hard, driving rain, but a fine, gentle mist that drifted down through the leaves. It hushed the world even further, the patter on the broad leaves overhead a soft, percussive whisper. The scent of the damp earth and the wet stone rose up, clean and invigorating. Fionn sat under the shelter of a broad-leafed fern, watching the tiny droplets collect on the fronds, each one a perfect trembling sphere holding a tiny upside-down image of the tranquil world. He felt no desire to seek shelter in the cottage, for the rain itself was a comfort, a gentle washing of the world. During these long, quiet hours, Fionn felt his own thoughts begin to settle like silt in a still pond. The need to plan, to remember, to figure things out simply fell away. His awareness, once turned inward on a constant stream of inner chatter, was now turned completely outward, absorbed by the simple, profound beauty of the Ghyll. He felt his breath deepen and slow, unconsciously matching the gentle, pulsing rhythm of the light from the bells and the moss. He was not Fionn, the mender of porcelain, or Fionn, the visitor. He was just a quiet, peaceful part of this quiet, peaceful place. Chapter 5. A Stillness to Carry Home. The morning of Fionn's departure arrived as gently as any other day in the Ghyll. The air was cool and soft, filled with the familiar, comforting hum and the scent of Olin's baking. There was no sadness in the air, no sense of an ending, but simply the feeling of a natural, gentle transition, like the turning of a page in a very slow and peaceful book. They shared a simple breakfast together at the small wooden table in Olin's cottage. Warm, fluffy honey cakes, still fragrant from the hearth, and a small bowl of wild berries that were impossibly sweet. They drank a final mug of hearthstone tea, and as Fionn held the warm ceramic in his hands, he noticed something remarkable. The low, resonant hum of the bells, which had been a constant external sound for days, no longer felt entirely outside of him. It was as if he had absorbed it, as if its peaceful frequency was now a part of his own quieted rhythm. The stillness of the Ghyll was no longer just in the air around him. He could feel it settle deep within his own chest, a calm and steady anchor. When it was time to leave, Olin did not offer grand farewells. Instead, he went to a small, sheltered corner of his garden where he tended to the youngest of the bellflowers. With a careful, gentle touch, he dug up a single, small, dormant bulb, no bigger than a thumbnail, its outer layer like smooth, dry paper. He placed it carefully into a small clay pot, nestled in a bed of the vibrant, luminous moss. It was a living piece of the Ghyll's quiet, a gentle reminder of the peace Fionn had found. Olin pressed the small pot into Fionn's hands. "It will not hum so loudly away from its home," he said, his voice a soft murmur. "But it will remember, and it will help you to remember too." Fionn looked at the simple, profound gift, at the promise of quiet it held, and felt a sense of gratitude so deep and gentle it needed no words to be expressed. He simply met Olin's kind eyes and nodded, a shared understanding passing between them. Fionn walked back along the path of smooth flagstones, the small pot held carefully in his hands. The hazy columns of light still danced their slow ballet, and the air was still thick with the scent of damp earth and contentment. He reached the stone archways, the threshold between the two worlds, and paused for a final moment. He took one last deep breath of the Ghyll's humming air, letting it fill him completely, a final gift to carry with him. As he stepped back through the archway, the sounds of the outer world returned, but they were different now, or perhaps he was different. The distant noises seemed softer, their sharp edges rounded off. The restless breeze felt less like a bother and more like a simple movement of the air. His own inner quiet acted as a gentle buffer, a soft cushion against the world's haste. The peace of the Ghyll was not a memory to be recalled, but a tangible stillness he now carried within him, as real and as present as the small precious bulb in his hands. He knew, with a quiet and simple certainty, that wherever he went, a small part of him would forever be listening to the gentle hum of fading sorrows. Da-da-da.